Hey everyone, so in my last few videos, we've been digging into the book of Acts and its ties to real-life history beyond the Bible. Now, you've probably heard skeptics brushing off the book of Acts as pure fiction, claiming that Luke never really did tag along with Paul, and that the whole thing is basically just a fanciful tale. But here's the deal. These skeptics, they got it all twisted up. So let's break it down and uncover a few more eye-opening details where Acts is confirmed by history outside of the Bible. Now, all of these juicy nuggets are straight out of a book by the classical historian Colin Hemmer titled The Book of Acts in the Setting of Hellenistic History. So, let's begin. In Paul's visit to Philippi, Acts 16:12 highlights three key details about the city. Firstly, it describes Philippi as a leading city of the district and a Roman colony, indicating its prestigious status and special privileges granted by Rome. This distinction was a source of pride for the city, and it's evidenced by historical artifacts like coins and Latin inscriptions. Secondly, Acts 16:13 mentions Paul and his companions heading to a riverside outside of the gate. While the author doesn't mention the specific river, historical context shows that it was likely the river Gangites. Despite not being a major river, like the Nile, the author's casual mention of this detail adds to the authenticity of the narrative. Lastly, Acts 16:14 introduces Lydia, a seller of purple dye or fabric, originally from Thyatira, a city that was well known for its trade in purple dye. This detail reflects the historical significance of Thyatira in the purple dye industry, emphasizing the accuracy of the narrative in capturing the cultural and economic context of the time. Now, let's skip forward a little bit and talk about some of the details from the riot that went down in Ephesus in Acts 19. First off, in Acts 19:35, we see the term town clerk, and he steps in to calm the crowd. Interestingly, the Greek term grammatus used here actually referred to the magistrate in Ephesus, and this is backed up by inscriptions from the time. Now, both the rioting mob and the level-headed town clerk in Acts 19 keep dropping the name Great Artemis, the special goddess of Ephesus. As it turns out, this phrase was no random choice. It's found in inscriptions solidifying Artemis's status as a big deal in the city. And check this out, Acts 19:35 has the town clerk easing tensions by reminding everyone that Ephesus is the guardian of the temple, a title of honor that's been spotted also in inscriptions from back then. Now, let's skip forward a little bit more and dive into a little neat detail from Acts 21:1, nestled in one of those wee passages where the author is taking us through a play-by-play of this last trip to Jerusalem. So here's the scoop. They stumble upon a ship at Patara, a port in Asia Minor, bound for Phoenicia, just north of the Holy Land. Now, what's cool about this is that Patara was a bustling port known for its corn trade, making it a logical spot to hitch a ride in that direction. But here's the kicker. The name Patara in Acts is in the neuter plural form, which could possibly mean baskets. And get this, Acts nails the exact right form of the town's name, a detail backed up again by inscriptions that we have. This would not at all be common knowledge. It's this kind of accuracy that really makes you sit up and take notice. Now, these details might seem a little bit boring. And here's the part where critics usually start throwing around this idea called the Spider-Man fallacy. You know, they say stuff like, hey, well, New York City exists, but that doesn't mean that Spider-Man is real, trying to brush off any historical details in Acts as totally irrelevant. But hold on, because there is a huge flaw in that logic. Critics love to nitpick Luke for things that he supposedly gets wrong, like the census, or butting heads with Paul's letters. But think about it. If messing up historical details is a mark against Acts, then getting them spot on should be a point in its favor, shouldn't it? I mean, hey, evidence works both ways. The critics have a major double standard here. And let's be real here. It's not like the author is just nailing down some easy peasy details like the existence of a major city. Nope, they're getting hard stuff right. And they did not have Google or Wikipedia to help them out. Imagine trying to fact check without all of those handy tools. It's not like they had local libraries full of books with page numbers and chapter titles and card catalogs to help them do their reference work either. No, they were dealing with dusty scrolls that would take forever to comb through. Plus, all these accurate little nuggets point to one thing. The author probably hoofed it to these places and saw these things firsthand. I mean, pretty much everyone is on board that Paul actually existed and have traveling companions, so what's the deal? It's not even a miracle for Luke to come along with Paul, it's just good old-fashioned observation. Alright, so let's pause and really think about this for just a second. What if we entertain this skeptic's idea that Acts is just a work of fiction? Picture this. The author somehow manages to gather all these super obscure details. And again, no Google, no Wikipedia, nada. Then they decide to spin this wild tale about Paul's travels, casually throwing in these random little historical nuggets everywhere. It's like they're creating a whole new genre of fiction that didn't even exist back then. And to top it off, they try to pass off this book as real history. Sounds pretty far-fetched, right? But here's where it gets even messier for the critics. A bunch of these biblical scholars want to argue that Acts was written way later than Paul's epistles, like in the 80s or even in the early 2nd century. Yet, they claim that it contradicts those very same letters. Now, these so-called contradictions that these scholars cook up are pretty flimsy and easily explained, but still, if this author was so clever to research all of these obscure details, wouldn't they bother to make sure that their own story lined up with Paul's letters, which would have been circulating widely by that time? These skeptics are not even painting a consistent picture of the author at all. And so I hope you find this series helpful so far. I'll have more historical confirmations in the Gospels and Acts in future videos, so be sure to subscribe and stay tuned. Thanks for watching.